You're watching ABC7 News at 7.
Absolutely. I'm glad the city's trying to chase down the opioid manufacturers because that's the root of the problem, and I think that's where we have to start in order to combat this crisis.
Opioid makers and sellers are being sued by the city of Sarasota. Will other cities follow suit? Good evening, everyone. I'm Alan Cohen, and welcome to ABC 7 at 7. We'll have more on Sarasota suing drug makers in a moment, but first, our top 7 stories at 7. And we begin tonight with how the Parkland school massacre is resulting in the Help Wanted sign going up at the Sarasota Sheriff's Office. The Sheriff's Office is hiring 14 school resource deputies to patrol all 12 elementary schools. Each deputy will make $23.50 an hour. The deputies will be responsible for ensuring safety and security of all students and staff at all times during regular school hours.
I think now that the governor signed the law into effect is that I think our citizens want deputies on these campuses. They want this to happen, and so it's really not an option for the school districts anymore. It's something they need to do. And it shouldn't have been put through legislatively. It's something that's the right thing to do, that parents want.
Sheriff Tom Knight will do the hiring and the training, but the deputies will be paid for with $63,000 from the state. Florida Senator Marco Rubio is taking sides in the Republican primary for the 17th Congressional District. Rubio is endorsing State Representative Julio Gonzalez over State Senator Greg Steube. Rubio says Gonzalez brings excellent credentials as a doctor, attorney, Navy veteran, and community leader. Tom Rooney is leaving Congress after 10 years in office. And the rest is made in a Manatee County homicide cold case. In 2006, Jose Rodriguez Lozada was shot to death on 3rd Street West in Bradenton. Detectives say Xomar Rosario was a person of interest in the case at the time of the shooting, and now because of new leads, detectives arrested Rosario and charged him with murder. Detectives believe the shooting was drug-related. A former Bradenton bail bondsman has been sentenced to more than 8 years in prison for cashing stolen and fraudulent checks. James Sean Renee deposited more than 100 United States Treasury checks for tax refunds for veterans, pensions, benefits into bank accounts for his bail bonds company. He also stole over $850,000 from victims, including veterans and elderly disabled individuals. Jean Rene was found guilty of conspiracy, theft of government property, and identity theft. A major intersection in downtown Sarasota is getting a roundabout in hopes of alleviating traffic congestion. FDOT is in the process of designing a 2-lane roundabout at the US 41 and Gulfstream Avenue intersection. The project also includes pedestrian and bicycle lanes along with a pedestrian activated crossing signal. Construction is planned to begin in late 2019 and expected to take about a year to build.
This design not only looks at today's volumes, but it looks at traffic volumes 30 years out as well. So we think that our belief is that this roundabout will not only function today or next year when it's being built, but in the long term as well.
The project will cost $4.1 million. FDOT is paying for $2.5 million, while the city of Sarasota is fronting the rest. The University of Florida has paid a local county government more than $67,000 to cover security costs for a speaking event last fall featuring white nationalist Richard Spencer. The Gainesville Sun reported today UF sent Alachua County money to cover the cost of the event. The county previously billed UF $200,000. The Sun estimated the event's total cost at $793,000. A federal judge has permanently blocked Florida's process of restoring voting rights to felons, calling the current process fatally flawed. A U.S. district judge repeatedly chided the state clemency board for the current restoration process and for threatening to scrap the system altogether after the judge last month struck down the process as unconstitutional. In February, the court found the state's clemency system is arbitrary and violates First Amendment rights and equal protection under the U.S. Constitution's 14th Amendment.
The interpretation had been up until this court case that there was virtually unbridled discretion. This court held otherwise.
The court gave Governor Rick Scott and the Board of Executive Clemency a month to come up with a new system providing ex-felons the right to vote. Now let's head over to ABC7's meteorologist Steve Newman with the first alert forecast. Steve.
Alan, with the lack of winds today and bright sunshine, it was just perfect for recreational activities all across Florida during the height of spring break. 83 was the high at Tampa, 84 at Fort Myers, and as cool as the 70s up in the Panhandle. We've actually had a little sea breeze develop after a high of 81, temperatures in the 70s late this afternoon in the evening hours. Kind of a summertime pattern. That sea breeze overpowered the prevailing southeasterly wind flow that's been coming in. You can see winds are still from the southeast right now, or southwest from the bay and Gulf waters. 81, the high this afternoon at the airport. Last night's low 57, so warmer than normal for the high, a little cooler than normal, but I think 62 is our forecast low temperature for tonight. And here is that strong prevailing southeasterly wind. You can see the cumulus clouds blowing across the state, many of them not quite reaching the sun coast, so we just had a few here and there, but a little cool breeze kept things a little damp and chilly along the Atlantic coast by comparison to us. Our forecast for winds tonight, they're going to go mainly calm overnight. You can see pretty much calmed 5 to 10 miles per hour at most overnight. But look what happens tomorrow morning. They start picking up again, gusting not only sustained between 10 and 15, maybe gust up to 20. But going out tonight, winds are not a problem. You're just going to enjoy a beautiful environment over Sarasota Bay, Bradenton, on the Riverwalk, or down in Venice and Charlotte County. Beautiful. Temperatures cooling off through the 60s through the evening hour.
Just bottle it up.
Yep.
Save it for tomorrow.
Yep.
All right.
Wind's not going to be that bad, but
Okay.
a little gusty.
All right, thanks a lot, Steve. And still to come, what can we expect from the city of Sarasota suing the drug companies? Stay with us.
Soldiers in the Army National Guard live up to a set of time-honored principles.
I will always place the mission first.
They stand ready to respond to any crisis.
I will never accept defeat.
They serve in their communities as citizens and as soldiers.
I will never quit.
They train part-time to be ready to serve at all times.
I will never leave a fallen comrade.
Learn more at nationalguard.com.
Hi, I'm Chef Bob. Watch Aprons in the Kitchen every Wednesday morning on ABC7, where we'll be serving up the most awesome dishes. Then stop by your neighborhood Publix, pick up the recipe card and all the ingredients.
Zupan, part of the U.S. Paralympic rugby team. In my game, movement is everything. I get frustrated when my move is blocked, especially when that guy has no right to be there, even just for a minute. I love a challenge, but I don't like to play this game every day.
A message from the United Spinal Association.
Dear parents, it's time for a pop quiz. What's the best kind of play for kids? Play that makes us think? Or helps us pretend? Or teaches us rules? Or to be creative? Actually, every kind of play is important because different kinds of play give us different kinds of skills. Help us mix up the ways we play. Okay, class dismissed. Now go play.
I'll be right back. Hi! You think you're probably sober?
Yeah.
But you're thinking about taking the back roads home, just in case. If you're probably sober, then why would you do that? Good choice.
Probably okay isn't okay. If you see a warning sign, stop and call a cab, a car, or a friend.
That's a full glass of wine. I'll be chatting you later.
Enjoy some of the best Suncoast restaurants on me. Just go to mysuncoast.com/dining, sign up for the newsletter if you haven't already, and you can win a $50 gift card to a restaurant in our area. We'll pick a winner each week, so go on our website and sign up now.
The Suncoast has some of the highest rates of opioid abuse per capita in the entire country. That's why the city of Sarasota is one of the first communities in the state to file suit against the makers and sellers of opioids. ABC7's Ray Collins tells us what the city is trying to accomplish.
Remember when governments and companies around the Gulf of Mexico sued British Petroleum for that oil spill? Something similar is happening now against the companies that make and sell opioids, those pain pills, often called the gateway to bigger addictions, the pills that have caused tens of thousands of deaths, including 6,000 a year in Florida alone.
And we're ground zero here. We are at the highest rate of death per capita, 25 per year in this region, Southwest Florida, Sarasota, Manatee County.
Sarasota Attorney Bill Robertson says the problem has gotten so bad in Sarasota County, the medical examiner needs help with all the extra bodies he's now handling.
They asked for $300,000 to increase the budget at the medical examiner's office to handle the increased pressure of autopsies.
And that's why the city of Sarasota has chosen Robertson to take part in major litigation against both the manufacturers and the distributors of opioids. And you'll notice by that bottom line, distributors are listing annual revenue of $378 billion. Some 200 litigants have joined together in a case where billions are at stake.
But we'll be representing the city of Sarasota in connection with their individual claim against all of these manufacturers and distributors to try to recoup the damages that the city has incurred in the expense for first responders. The Narcan, for example, is $300 a shot. That's the drug that pulls these guys out of the overdoses. And so law enforcement, incarceration, any cost that the city has incurred in treating opioid overdoses or the epidemic is recoverable in these actions against these manufacturers and distributors.
Sarasota Vice Mayor Liz Alpert is glad the city is trying to stop the flow of the painkillers before they get in the wrong hands.
Absolutely, I'm glad the city's trying to chase down the opioid manufacturers because that's the root of the problem, and I think that's where we have to start in order to combat this crisis.
Robertson says the city has spent hundreds of thousands of dollars that could have gone to much better uses, but he's optimistic they'll make back some money.
I absolutely think that for the first time in history that these manufacturers will be held accountable. The MDL and the parties involved, the plaintiffs' counsel that are handling this all over the country, are some of the best in the world, and they've already filed individual suits previously and gotten verdicts against them on behalf of individuals. And so I think that there's a great chance that there'll be a significant recovery for the city of Sarasota, as well as other municipalities that have been damaged by this crisis.
Robertson must believe he'll be successful. He only gets paid if he wins. In Sarasota, Ray Collins, ABC7, your Suncoast News.
Manatee County is also filing a similar lawsuit, but it might not be a black and white verdict. The judge in this case is reportedly have a history of brokering settlements. In a moment, a Sarasota City Commissioner and the attorney the city hired to handle the case at the trapezoid.
Florida Studio Theater presents Blue Suede Shoes, celebrating the birth of rock and roll. From the father of rock and roll, Chuck Berry, to the king himself, Elvis Presley, this musical review features such great hits as Rock Around the Clock, Mustang Sally, Johnny Be Good, and of course, Blue Suede Shoes. Critics are calling Blue Suede Shoes a burst of rock history, dynamic and high voltage. Audiences are calling it phenomenal. Blue Suede Shoes has been held over by popular demand. Tickets can be purchased by calling 941-366-9000 or by visiting FloridaStudioTheater.org.
A decade of war has taken an unprecedented toll on our men and women in uniform.
Hundreds of thousands of our veterans are suffering from the trauma of war.
At Justice for Vets, we believe that every veteran should have the opportunity for treatment and restoration.
Get involved and go to justiceforvets.org.
Help put treatment within reach of veterans in crisis.
Veterans fought for our freedom. Now it's our turn to fight for theirs.
This is your brain. This is drugs. This is your brain on drugs. Any questions?
Yeah, I have questions.
Prescription drugs aren't as bad as street drugs, right?
Weed's legal, isn't it?
Drinking is worse than smoking weed.
Isn't it? Why
is heroin so addictive?
Molly just makes you feel happy.
I have questions.
Mom?
Dad, did you ever try drugs?
They're going to ask. Be ready. Go to drugfree.org. A message from Partnership for Drug-Free Kids.
I used to dread getting up and going to work.
I was done with the corporate grind.
I was tired of being a starving artist.
And I started looking around for a business that I believed in, and I kind of wanted to do something a little more green.
My SCORE mentor helped me take the first step.
He helped me create a business plan and helped me implement it.
They've really taught me how to think big.
SCORE helped me to make the unimaginable possible, all for free. I'm here because of SCORE.
I'm here because of SCORE.
Get your free business mentor at SCORE.org.
My life motto is keep moving. And as hard as it was when my husband passed away, I knew I had to keep doing what I love. Oops, coming. But I needed help with my insurance, and that's what the NAIC provides. They have resources to help you and your family make the best decision, and they'll help you to keep moving forward, just like me.
Welcome back. Opioid abuse has wrecked the lives of so many people, so many families here on the Suncoast, across Florida, and the entire nation. Collectively, we look for answers: better treatment, better addiction treatment, cracking down on illegal opioids entering the country. Florida passed tough new rules limiting the number of days doctors can prescribe opioid medication. Now Sarasota is joining other cities and states suing drug makers and distributors, saying the companies knew their product was highly addictive. So what do you think? Joining us for more is Sarasota Deputy Mayor Liz Alpert, Attorney Bill Robertson of Kirk Pinkerton, the city firm that we hired to handle the case. And Liz, let me start with you. For how many years has the City Commission struggled and been aware of the costs, in terms of services of all sorts, that the city was really coughing up to handle the different parts of opioid addiction?
Well, I've only been on the commission about 3.5 years, but during that entire time, this has been an issue as how we deal with this, because the opioid crisis and the number of people that die every year, the services that the city has to render, have been an issue, and it ties into our homeless issue as well.
All right, and these are costs that the city doesn't get back from anyone.
Correct.
Let me ask you, what are the drug companies allegedly liable for? Because after all, this type of medication was invented for a very good purpose, and that was relieving pain in acute cases.
Yeah, in acute cases, that's what it's designed for, and then palliative care at the end of life stage in cancer patients, and it works very well because it attaches to the receptors and blocks pain. So there's a place for it, and it's well used and well purposed. But the problem with the manufacturers and the distributors is the narrative changed to where they have now, through a series of false fronts and promotional things they've done within the medical community, convinced people that it's okay to prescribe them for chronic pain, and it's not.
Was there a point of time when that happened?
It really, I think addictions were down until about 1995 when Purdue came up with a long-release OxyContin, and that's when the push started for all the opioids to be used in mainstream for chronic pain. And statistically, I think it shows that somebody can become addicted within a couple of weeks, and that if you're on it over a period of time, you're 56% likely to be addicted if you have a long-term prescription for chronic pain. So it's really significant, and so you'll see the uprising in the causes and the deaths. For example, we're up to 64,000 in 2016 who died of opioid overdoses related to this, and it's largely because the narrative changed on the part of the manufacturers and the distributors to push it down through the mainstream medical community to say, okay, it's okay now to prescribe this for chronic pain. It's not.
Liz, you talk to a lot of people in our community, and you know that this has impacted so many lives, so many families, but you also know there are a lot of people who watch this broadcast and who probably come up to you and tell you, people who get addicted to these medications, that's an individual choice, and that it's up to them to solve this problem and not, whether it's taxpayers or the pharmaceutical companies.
Well, you do get that attitude, but the problem with that argument is that it really, once you're addicted, it's not a choice, because the medical studies have shown that these chemicals actually change the brain of the person who's addicted. So at some point, they really are not making a choice anymore because they're unable to make that choice. And I see it as well in my family law practice, where it affects mothers who are carrying babies, and even the mothers who want to stay clean can't seem to do it even to protect their own unborn child. So it's a serious issue that it's not often a choice, and not even often a choice to become addicted.
We are just getting warmed up, and we'll have much more on the city's lawsuit against the drug manufacturers right after we check the first alert weather. Stay with us.
Are you a food lover, restaurant goer, or home cook? Then check out My Suncoast Dining on mysuncoast.com, your guide to the foodie lifestyle. ABC7's own Chef Judy serves up her favorite recipes, cooking tips and trends, dining blogs, and helpful step-by-step videos. And you'll love the restaurant guide with direct links to your favorite Suncoast eateries. Whether you're cooking in or dining out, whet your appetite with tasty tips from Chef Judy at mysuncoast.com/dining. Want the latest weather and traffic conditions wherever you go? Introducing ABC7's revolutionary new First Alert weather app. With our state-of-the-art new weather app, you get up-to-the-minute weather alerts, interactive radar maps, current conditions, 10-day forecasts, real-time traffic maps, and weather video from ABC7, all at your fingertips. And it's free. Just search Suncoast WX in the App Store and download onto all your devices today. Sponsored by Mr. Sparky.
This is the story of a boy who is very sensitive to lights and sounds. So he built secret hiding places where nothing could get in. The boy didn't like looking people in the eye. It made him feel uncomfortable. One day, he found out he had something called autism. His family got him help, and slowly, he learned how to live with it better.
Early intervention can make a lifetime of difference. Learn the signs at autismspeaks.org.
To be able to just get my son here and not think about how we will pay for it, it just takes so much weight off of my family. St. Jude allowed me to focus on being a mom to Bryce. And sometimes I'm just in awe of the impact St. Jude has, not only on this community, but the world.
Imagine a world filled with pillow fights, playgrounds, and the search for the perfect climbing tree. Every kid deserves that world, but 1 in 5 kids in America struggle with hunger. At No Kid Hungry, we're committed to creating a world where every kid eats healthy food every day. We raise funds, we help families, and we lift up communities.
Our conversation continues right after we get a check on the First Alert forecast with meteorologist Steve Newman. Steve.
Hi, Alan. Without yesterday's strong gusty winds, it was a sparkling, beautiful day with dry air over Sarasota Bay. You can see hardly a cloud in the sky. In contrast to areas further south of us, a lot of cumulus clouds came over us. And look at sunset just about to happen over Sarasota Bay. And I want to thank Diane Kamp for sending this picture of the Flying Scott Midwinter races from the Sarasota Sailing Squadron. This is day 3 of 4, and they just had perfect conditions for that. Also, thanks to Elizabeth Pellegrini for sending this picture of last night's Venice sunset. Look at the contrails there. Extraordinary. If you get a chance and you get a great picture like that, send it to pics@mysuncoast.com. The more creative, the better. We like that. This is a pretty awesome picture right now. Looking at the airport temperature, SRQ at 73, and boy, we have a sea breeze, like a summertime sea breeze is kicked in from the west at 7 miles per hour. Dew point's up to 61 because of the moisture blowing in from the Gulf. And you can see the sea breeze has overpowered a very strong southeasterly wind flow coming in from the Atlantic. It's producing high surf along the Atlantic coast, but not for us. Winds shifted around to westerly late afternoon, cooling us off from a high today of 81 degrees. It is a stormy night across the lower Mississippi Valley and East Texas, with a string of tornado watches currently in effect from about northern Mississippi to Corpus Christi, Texas. The heaviest activity the last couple hours has been around Alexandria to Monroe, Louisiana. Now the strong storms are heading over toward Jackson and into Mississippi. It is going to be a very stormy night, and this is a weather feature that is actually our next weather maker. It's our best chance of rain coming in late Friday and Saturday, but don't expect much out of this because high pressure is fighting the advance of the moisture from this all the way. Temperatures across the nation: a cool, damp evening in New York City, 52, Boston 43, Atlanta 75. Beautiful weather out west for moving into the Passover Easter weekend in San Francisco and Los Angeles as well. Now, let's take a look at that advancing cold front that I say doesn't have much chance of bringing us rain, even though it's impressive now producing the severe weather down in the deep south. As that front approaches, the high pressure out there, it's going to encounter drying air, and it's pretty much going to wash out, although there could be some strong storms Friday up in the Panhandle. We'll go from the RPM computer forecast model that only goes out 2 days to the European model that goes out about 10. You can see the front moving through Friday night, but the rain just kind of disappears as it approaches us, and by Easter Sunday, skies will clear. We'll have a beautiful day. Here's my forecast for the rest of tonight. We'll have fair to partly cloudy skies with calming winds. Our low temperature 61, and for tomorrow a mostly sunny day to partly sunny. High 82, but winds will pick up from the southeast, 10 to 15 again, gusting up to 20. And here's the 7-day outlook. Takes us to the Passover Easter weekend. You can see temperatures staying pretty much in the low 80s for the next couple of days. Passover sunset is at 7:47. That's Friday, 7:46 or 7:47 on Friday evening. And then we'll have the front come through Friday night into Saturday with a 20% chance of showers. Skies clear for Easter Sunday, high 80. We stay dry and warm through the early part of next week. Alan will be back with his guest right after these words. Stay tuned.
Since 1972, Sleep King has provided quality mattresses and accessories at the best discounted prices available. Top brands like Simmons, Sealy, Serta, Beautyrest, iComfort, and more. With available free delivery, free financing, and free setup and removal. For a comfortable night's sleep with same-day delivery, even if we have to carry it on our backs. Trust Sleep King of Sarasota. Buy it today, sleep on it tonight.
Don't allow your weight to threaten your health or control your future. Excess weight or obesity can cause emotional and physical health risks. But you can take control. The Your Weight Matters campaign offers free resources and tips to help you measure and understand your weight. Take the Your Weight Matters Challenge. The free toolkit prepares you to speak with a healthcare provider about your weight. Your weight does matter. Take the challenge and take control today.
Looking for something fun to do on a Friday night? Then come to Music on Main, the first Friday of every month at Lakewood Ranch. Enjoy free live music, dancing, great food, and lots of fun for every family member, even the furry ones. Meet up with friends, enjoy activities for the kids, or make it a special date night. And be sure to stop by the ABC7 booth and say hello. Mark your calendars for Music on Main, first Friday of the month, 6 to 9 at Lakewood Ranch. Brought to you by ABC7 and these sponsors. Everyone's buzzing about Suncoast View.
I like watching the Suncoast View.
I like the Suncoast View.
The cooking segments, I love the recipes. The theater segments are terrific.
Join Stephanie Roberts, Linda Carson, and special guests on Suncoast View for hot topics, everyday issues, celebrities, food, fashion, fitness, and everything in between. Nothing is off limits.
They're just fun.
For smart, fun talk in the afternoon, watch Suncoast View, weekdays at 4 on ABC7.
Welcome back. We're talking about Sarasota's lawsuit against the makers of opioid pain medication. And joining us for more is Sarasota's Vice Mayor Liz Alpert and Attorney Bill Robertson of Kirk Pinkerton, the firm hired by the city to handle the case. And we should note that we also asked the pharmaceutical industry to join us tonight. A spokesperson, Nick McGee from Pharma, says because of the legal matters, the industry could not, but they provided us with this statement basically describing what the industry is trying to do in terms of the opioid crisis. And quote, that includes, those policies include a limit on the supply of the opioid medications to 7 days for acute pain and clear exemptions, mandating prescriber training to ensure appropriate treatment of addiction and pain, and eliminate coverage mandates that are barriers to keep patients from accessing all forms of addiction treatment, which is, I would imagine, is good stuff, but does not go nearly far enough to handle the underlying issues that we're talking about tonight.
I would agree with that. I think the problem is the horse is out of the barn, and when you get caught with your hand in the cookie jar,
I used that line the other night.
Yeah, I think it's true. You know, they got busted for what they were doing, and they've led to this crisis. And it's not like you can stop it on a dime, because this is going to continue for a number of years. Every person who's addicted is much like an alcoholic. You're always addicted.
The legal case, is it similar? I know that Ray referred to the BP oil settlement in his story, but you also have the big, settlement involving tobacco. Are these similar principles?
Yeah, they are. I think what happens, there's numbers of lawsuits. There have been 200 lawsuits that have been filed over the country so far, and that'll be multiplied by many because each municipality and state has a right to sue to recover. And it's similar to tobacco because tobacco, there was 46 states who sued tobacco to recover the cost of smoking-related illnesses. This is the same thing, that municipalities and states have the right to recover against Big Pharma and the distributors for the cost associated with treating the opioid epidemic, from the Narcan, which is $300 an injection, to law enforcement, to incarceration, to hospitalization, to the opioid-addicted babies, and all the way down the line. So it's something that is similar to that. And what happens is when you have a common issue or a common conduct that gives rise to all these separate lawsuits, they declare what's called a multi-district litigation, or an MDL. And that's been declared in the Southern District of Ohio. And what happens is that judge handles all the common issues relative to liability on the part of the parties, and then each individual plaintiff has the right to make a claim for its individual damages. So in other words, Sarasota's damages are different than Sarasota County or City of Bradenton or whatever. So that's how it's handled. So we sit back and wait until they get done with the common issues until we farm back to here.
So Liz, Sarasota is the first community in Florida that is joining this lawsuit, but obviously the opioid epidemic is ravaging Manatee County, and I would imagine every major and minor city and town throughout the state. Has there been any effort by the city to coordinate efforts with other communities throughout Florida?
We haven't, but I believe your law firm, correct, has been approaching some of the other cities, because it would make sense that really all of us get together and say, we need relief from this, that, you caused this problem, this is what it's costing us, so we should be able to recover our damages for what's happening. In addition, individuals who become addicted to this, they would have also grounds for suing the manufacturers for, really, it was, false advertising, one of the things, telling doctors that they couldn't get addicted, and now, of course, they're finding out that none of that was true.
There are a couple of questions here. Sarasota and the county have done a very good job over the last 5 years in terms of eliminating pill mills, and there was state action on that as well. But there are still pain management practices in Sarasota, the city and the county, that are still in business, and they do have a role, I would imagine. But what are the areas, if Sarasota won a settlement, that you would like to see this money spent on?
Well, obviously, I'm one of 5 commissioners, but, if we were able to recover, I'd like to see it to go towards offsetting certainly some of the expenses that we've incurred, but I'd also like to see if we couldn't take some of it and put it into some treatment programs or some of the programs that we're already supporting, such as the drug treatment and those sorts of things that the Centerpoint group that they're doing rehab and recovery, and try to stop it there.
You know, I remind people every opportunity I get that Florida, the state of Florida, ranks dead last in the entire nation in terms of funding mental health, which means that when people get into trouble and they need treatment and they need treatment beds, good luck in Florida.
That's a huge issue, and that's, you know, I mean, that ties into, as I said, the homeless issue. It ties into the, you know, gun control issue. All of these things are interrelated, and, you know, opioid addiction is a big factor.
But Bill, if we're talking about principles and cases similar to the BP case and tobacco, these are cases that take a long time to prosecute, and therefore get, you know, if you're lucky to win a settlement or negotiate a settlement, how many years are we talking about here?
You know, if we had to litigate this case till the end, it might take 2 to 3 to 5 years potentially. But what I expect to do, because of the massive pressure that's going to be borne down on the manufacturers and distributors, is that there'll be a settlement reached, and the judge who's overseeing the MDL has indicated he'd like to get something going by the end of this year. Now, that's pretty optimistic, but what I suspect will happen is at some point over the next year or two, there'll be some effort to come up with a global settlement that'll then be redistributed to the various plaintiffs who filed suit on some, you know, proportional basis.
Is there any indication yet the pharmaceutical industry is doing anything to change how it markets these drugs or does its business? Because I know that here also in the statement that I was given, that the industry in general is trying to accelerate the development of non-opioid pain medications. I would imagine that would be good news to a lot of people.
Yeah, it should be, because that's appropriate for chronic pain. You know, the opioids have a place, as I said before, for acute pain for a short period of time, as well as the end-of-life care. And so there's a great place for those things, but they have to come up with alternatives. And recent studies have shown that the opioids don't, in fact, do any better for chronic pain than some of the over-counter stuff that's not opioid. So there's a place for that, but it's not nearly as profitable. So they don't have a choice at this point in time but do a U-turn and try to do something different because they've gotten caught.
Liz, I don't know if you know the answer to this, but I'm going to ask you anyway, because we're dealing with opioid abuse in a number of different ways. We're, you know, the pharmaceutical industries, the Percocets and the Vicodins and the Oxycondones, that kind of medication, but also illegal opioids that are coming into this country from overseas. So is that a separate, you know, does that result in separate obstacles that the city has to deal with in terms of how to defend itself and to get treatment for people who are using that kind of, you know, heroin, fentanyl, and so forth?
Well, certainly that is different than this. You know, this lawsuit goes after the pharmaceutical manufacturers, so, you know, you have someone you can go after, but when it's illegal, you've got another whole set of issues. And, you know, the OxyContin, as I understand it, is similar in character to heroin. And so if they're not able to get OxyContin, then they're going to heroin, which now is being laced with fentanyl, which is very deadly. So, you know, it makes for even a bigger crisis.
And of course, Bill, what people might want to know, when you take a look at other similar cases, as we mentioned, BP and the cigarette or the tobacco settlement, what kind of settlement for the city can you hope that you would get one day in terms of monetary amounts?
You know, we haven't exactly quantified our total damages, because in this case, unlike BP, we have the right to go back probably 5 years to collect data on what the costs have been. In addition, when you have future damages, because it's ongoing, you have the right in these kind of lawsuits to project out your future damages as well. So this is a multi-year calculation on what our damages are. So once we get a baseline that we're working on, then we'll be able to multiply it by the number of years that are reasonable to expect. So in terms of what that price tag is, I don't know. And I suspect that because of the level of damages, that the settlement will be a fraction of what they are, because if the pharmaceuticals had to pay the real damages across the country, it would put them out of business.
Okay. We have to take a quick break, and we'll be back for final thoughts in just a moment. Stay with us.
Hi, I'm Chef Bob. Watch Aprons in the Kitchen every Wednesday morning on ABC7, where we'll be serving up the most awesome dishes. Then stop by your neighborhood Publix, pick up the recipe card and all the ingredients.
I just need a second.
Is your weight holding you back and affecting your health?
Did you see this? Your cousin had a heart attack.
Really?
Excess weight or obesity can be serious, but you can do something about it. Visit yourweightmatters.org. Download the free toolkit to prepare you to speak with a healthcare provider. Your weight does matter. Accept the challenge and take charge today. Visit yourweightmatters.org.
Okay, so we drowned the fire.
Yep.
Stirred it. Drowned it again. And now just feel if it's cold.
Yeah.
Cool.
Smokey just gave me a bear hug.
I know. I already posted it.
Who else has been taking your prescriptions? Keep your medicine and your family safe and secure. Mind your meds. To learn how we can help, visit the Partnership for Drug-Free Kids at drugfree.org.
Everybody can make something, because I think everyone has a spark of creativity, and the reason that I have to keep making is because I don't think my life would be as fulfilling without it. If you make things yourself, that means you're not cowering in fear. You're out there taking chances. That, I think, is my way of saying I love you to the world. All right, now I want to hear why you make.
Share your own Why I Make story today. Visit whyimake.org.
Download the all-new ABC7 First Alert weather app now.
And our guests join us right now for final thoughts. So, Liz, what do you think is the principle here, that the reason why the city was so eager to join this lawsuit and get something out of it?
Well, because I think that it's a way to send a message to the pharmaceutical companies that they've got to change their behavior and quit marketing these things for people when they don't need them, and then people get addicted. I think the thing that I would like people to take away from this is that we need to fight this on all fronts, and the state needs to step up and give more funding for mental health, for substance abuse, and all of these issues. And this is a way for us to maybe recover our costs and get some money for that.
Bill, if you were to boil down what the drug companies are doing that is really the worst behavior in this whole affair, what would that be?
It's the big marketing scam they came up with to convince doctors that it's okay to prescribe for chronic pain. And as I've said, statistically, people get addicted, 56% chance that they will if they take it over a prolonged period of time, which might be 2 weeks, 3 weeks. And so it's gotten these people hooked, and the deaths are up, and so the profits are way up. And unfortunately, even the fines, Purdue pled guilty and was fined $300 million. That's a slap on the wrist with the revenues that they have on an annual basis. It doesn't do anything to them. So until, the FDA and the others have fined them, but until they get hit in the pocketbook and stop the behavior, that's where they're going to hear it. So I guess my takeaway would be that those of us like us who will take on the cause on a contingency fee basis across the country are going to send them a message and stop the behavior. And that's, until then, they're not going to stop.
All right, well, thank you both.
Thank you.
Before we go, we want to share with you what some of you had to say about last night's show on the race for Congress in South County. Congressman Tom Rooney is retiring after 10 years in office. Florida's 17th Congressional District will be looking for a new congressman in November. Republican State Representative Julio Gonzalez and Republican State Senator Greg Steube have both announced that they will be running. On the Democratic side, businesswoman April Freeman and respiratory therapist Bill Pollard are also running. We went to Facebook to hear your thoughts, and Dottie says, what is to miss about Congressman Rooney? He lives in D.C., which does nothing for our district. Michelle says, glad he will be gone, looking for a quality Republican conservative candidate. Well, if you'd like to join the conversation on tonight's topic, just visit our Facebook page at facebook.com/mysuncoast.com.abc7. And FYI, you can watch past discussions on demand. They're available on Apple TV, Amazon Fire, and Roku. And for the latest on local breaking news, don't forget to download the updated version of our app. If your current app doesn't work, it's expired, just go to the App Store and re-download it by searching for WWSB or My Suncoast. We want to thank both our guests for being here tonight, Sarasota's Vice Mayor Liz Albert and Attorney Bill Robertson of Kirk Pinkerton, the firm hired by the city to handle this case. When we return, we'll have a final look at your First Alert weather, plus more details in the alleged affair between President Trump and Stormy Daniels.
Maybe you can make retirement happen. After all, you made her college years happen. Opening that education savings account when she was little. Spearheading a campus tour. And another, and another, and another, and another. Bam! Deciphering financial aid. She was like, what? But now she's like, you aced planning for college. Now get the tips you need to get on track at aceyourretirement.org.
All right, crew, let's get started. Sure.
Don't ignore the law. You must call 811 at least 2 to 3 days before any digging project so you can avoid hitting our essential buried utilities. For digging projects big or small, make the call to 811.
It's been about a month, and I can honestly say I've seen the change in me. I went from being a depressed girl who didn't want help to this happy, caring girl who loves helping other people. I just really hope that people that went through what I went through get the help that they need, because their story is important and they are loved. Thank you so much for everything.
Your primetime headlines are coming up in a moment, but right now let's get a final check on the forecast from meteorologist Steve Newman. Steve.
Hey, Alan, what a great sunset in progress across the Suncoast, and we had a gorgeous day, hardly a cloud in the sky, and a nice sea breeze came in and cooled us off late in the afternoon from highs in the low 80s through the 70s this evening. And there goes the sundown right at 7:45 on schedule. Currently over Sarasota Bay, it's also a beautiful evening, 73 degrees. The dew point 61 because of that west wind blowing moisture off the Gulf. It was much drier earlier today when we had a land breeze, but that has shifted around. Pattern breeze typical of what we get during summer months. Our high 81 at the airport, last night's low 57. You see a little warmer for the day, a little cooler for the night, but we're going to be a little warmer than normal for both those counts as we move into the holiday weekend. Now, there's a very strong southeasterly wind flow. That high out in the Atlantic is just pulling in a lot of cumulus clouds across South Florida. Only a couple of them managed to make it into the Suncoast, as you can see there. I'll see the sun setting, the clouds dimming here. Those onshore winds are also creating a high surf along the Atlantic coast, and high surf advisories in effect there. But we had fairly calm surf, as you just saw from that Casey Key cam here on the Suncoast. Now, it's another stormy night in the deep south. Third day in a row, Texas being hammered by severe storms, or at least a threat of them. This is the outlook from the Storm Prediction Center in Norman, Oklahoma. And look at the tornado watches stretching all the way from Mississippi across Louisiana into Texas, almost to Corpus Christi. It is March, moving into April. This is what we'd expect this time of year, and these are some fairly strong storms. We've had already tornado warnings in effect between Alexandria and Monroe, Louisiana. Now the storms, the stronger ones, are now moving into west central Mississippi during the evening. We'll follow the progress of that as we move into the evening and update you at 11 o'clock tonight. Quite warm down in the deep south and not too cold up north. 47 at Chicago right now. Seattle with 53. Denver, they had 72 earlier, about a week ago, with a fall spring, but boy, they're back into winter right now with 32. Now let's take a look at this front that's whipping up those big storms in the deep south as it approaches us, because it is our next weather maker. If we're lucky, it might bring us a few raindrops, but that's about all we'll get. High pressure is just fighting off the advance of that moisture, just drying the air as it approaches. We could have some strong storms Friday up in the Panhandle, but look, by Friday afternoon, there's a position of the front, or Friday evening. From the RPM computer model, we have to switch to the European to go to long range to take us through the Easter weekend. And you can see on Friday evening, looks fairly impressive, but look what happens. It just kind of dies out as it passes over the Suncoast late Friday night into Saturday morning. And with the front moving farther south on Easter Sunday, skies clear. There could be some residual moisture around in the interior, maybe a few showers there, but right along the Suncoast should be beautiful. I can't guarantee a cloud-free sunrise for Easter sunrise services, but the day should be dry. If you're going out on the water tomorrow, south winds 10 to 15, gusting higher than that over the bay, seas 2 to 3 feet. 2 to 4 feet, and in that water's a light to moderate chop. We will have breezy conditions returning with a high of 81 at the beach tomorrow. The Gulf water temperature now warmed up to 70. UV index very high, it's at 10. Here's my forecast for the rest of tonight. It'll be mainly fair, and the winds are going to be really slackening off between 5 and 10, closer to 5, I think, by midnight. High average is about 59, and tomorrow a sunny day, high temperature 82, and your 7-day outlook shows that we stay dry until Friday night. Saturday, the early 20% chance of showers, Easter Sunday clearing out, and early next week we remain warm and dry, unfortunately. Alan will be back with primetime headlines right after these words. Stay tuned.
ABC7, your Suncoast News. We're here for you. Watch ABC7 wherever you are, on our live stream, on mysuncoast.com, on the ABC7 My Suncoast app, powered by the Eye Associates, providing sight for life, featuring traffic maps and live radar, dining with recipes, and My Suncoast Restaurant Guide. Visit mysuncoast.com. Click on the Apps tab to download the ABC7 My Suncoast app for Apple and Android.
Hamilton was adopted from a rescue in 2008. He really likes to be around people. And as soon as I start to make my breakfast, Hamilton is right there. I get out my mat and I'm doing a downward dog and he's underneath. He's quite the pug about town. He gets invited to a lot of parties. He knows he's a pretty big deal. I mean, look at this little face. How could you not love him?
We're losing exotic animals on a daily basis, and the ones that we have in captivity are really the ambassadors for their wild counterparts. I'm Clayton Rozier from the Big Cat Habitat and Gulf Coast Sanctuary, housing over 150 exotic animals that needed a great home. And if you love animals, please help them. Do it locally. Support your local no-kill shelters, your local wild animal sanctuaries. Make a difference where you can.
Every time you purchase a fishing license or register your boat, you're helping to preserve our nation's coastlines, lakes, rivers, and streams, protecting memories for generations to come. Learn how your participation in boating and fishing can help the environment at takemefishing.org/conservation.
Primetime headlines: adult film actress Stormy Daniels not going away after her 60 Minutes interview. In her latest legal move, she is demanding the president and his lawyer be deposed. ABC's Tara Palmieri has more.
3 days after Stormy Daniels' 60 Minutes interview was seen by millions, still no public comment from President Trump. White House Press Secretary Sarah Sanders punting questions.
If subpoenaed, would the president sit for a deposition?
Again, I'm not going to get into a hypothetical question, and I would refer you to Michael Cohen on that matter.
Overnight, adult film actress Stormy Daniels now requesting that the president and his personal lawyer, Michael Cohen, testify under oath. Daniels, whose real name is Stephanie Clifford, and her lawyer, Michael Avenatti, filed a motion in U.S. District Court in California. It seeks to depose the president on what he knew about the $130,000 non-disclosure agreement she signed just 11 days before the 2016 election. The White House has denied the president had any knowledge of the agreement between Daniels and Cohen. An attorney and spokesperson for Cohen, David Schwartz, told ABC News he doesn't believe the case will ever get to the deposition stage, saying in a statement, "The contract is valid on its face, and the defamation action against Cohen is frivolous on its face." Avenatti said he believes the case will move forward. Citing President Clinton's infamous deposition on the Monica Lewinsky affair, he told ABC News, "We expect to be placing the president and his fixer under oath in the coming months." Despite Daniels' claims, the president's approval ratings have actually rebounded. According to a CNN poll, they're back at their highest level, 42%. While Cohen and Trump want the case settled privately by an arbitrator, Daniels' attorney is saying he wants a public trial with a jury. Tara Palmieri, ABC News, Washington.
David Shulkin is out as Veterans Affairs Secretary. President Trump has already picked his replacement. Trump has said he would never use his catchphrase, "You're fired," on Shulkin, but after a trip to Europe last year, Shulkin came under fire for spending and accepting tickets to Wimbledon. Trump also campaigned on the plan to offer veterans more private health care options, something insiders say Shulkin didn't advance far enough. Ronnie Jackson has been appointed as the new Veterans Affairs Secretary, who serves as the president's personal physician. Senior Trump administration officials today gave details on the new U.S. trade deal with South Korea. The agreement, in principle, is the first trade deal of Trump's presidency. It essentially revises a deal that went into effect in 2012, which Trump has slammed as horrible and a job killer. The official said the revisions are an improvement and show Trump is delivering on his promise to negotiate better trade deals. Negotiations also resulted in some relief for South Korea on the administration's steel and aluminum tariffs. Better late than never. Facebook is changing its privacy settings. It comes in the wake of its data breach by Cambridge Analytica. Facebook says the redesigned security settings will let users decide what personal information the social network and third-party apps keep. Facebook is adding 2 more tools, including a privacy shortcuts menu where people can add 2-factor authentication and control the ads that they are served. It's rolling out the changes in the coming weeks. SpaceX is making waves in the space industry, but Elon Musk's company is also making holes. The launch of the Falcon 9 rocket last August tore a hole in the Earth's ionosphere. The 560-mile wide hole was only temporary, but it could cause concern. The ionosphere is part of the upper atmosphere, which adds radio communication satellites, GPS. The hole closed in about 3 hours. However, more launches take place. Scientists warn that tears in the atmosphere could cause disruptions in GPS service. And that's all the time we have for this evening. I'm Alan Cohn. Thanks for joining us, and have a great night.